Hi, and welcome to IronHacks Live Info Session number 3. Professor Sabine Brunswicker, Director of the Research Center for Open Digital Innovation, will be joining us here in just a minute. As we get started, I wanted to make a quick note that we do have a question and answer box. If you have questions throughout the session, please do enter those into the Q&A chat box, and we'll be monitoring that throughout the session. And if you'll just wait for us for just a couple more minutes, we'll get started shortly. One other brief note I'd like to mention as we get ready to start the session is that I will be asking a few questions as well in the chat box. I will post those as answers to another question, so do keep an eye out if you see a question. Please do take the time to then respond in the form of a question yourself. So again, we'll be getting started here shortly, and Professor Sabine Brunswicker will get us kicked off with this exciting session. Welcome, Professor Brunswicker. I will hand over the presenting duties to you.
Okay, good afternoon. I hope you can all hear me well. Let's get started. My name is Sabine Brunswicker. I am a director of the Research Center for Open Digital Innovation, and I'm also the founder and initiator of IronHacks. And today, I will introduce you to IronHacks on behalf of the team that's behind it, because it's not just me. And I also want to talk a little bit more about the COVID Data Science Challenge that is coming up, and how we are going to run this using the platform. It's now the third info session that we're running. And today, I'm also going to introduce again you into IronHacks, the challenge, the platform features that we'll be using, and also the type of the task that you will get exposed to solve that grand challenge. I'm going to share my screen in a little bit. I'm using a presentation to guide you through this. But before I start, if you have questions, please post those in the chat. Unfortunately, me here as a panelist, I have little ability to interact with you. But if you have a question, please do share them as we go so that we can respond to those and consider those. Okay, so let me share my screen and then we can get started. Okay. IronHacks, hacking for innovation to solve grand challenges. One of the grand challenges we are facing today as a society is COVID-19, which seems to be something that is not going to go away that fast. So before I'm going to talk about the COVID-19 Data Science Challenge and how you can actually make a contribution to this and help us tackle that challenge that matters to everybody here on this planet, brief background about us, our Cody, then telling you a bit about IronHacks, because there's a history, and also where IronHacks is going. And then we're going to talk about the data science challenges, because we're actually going to run several ones, 2 at least for this fall. But some of our partners already raised interest in actually doing potential more. Okay, our Cody, Research Center for Open Digital Innovation. We are excited about digital technologies, and you know those: cloud, IoT, mobile, social media, but also the increasing advancement in machine learning, data science, AI, and I think you all have heard about that, or even working on this as a student, as a professional, or in your spare time. We would like to empower individuals to use digital technology so they can actually make a contribution and solve innovation problems. And we're particularly interested in those problems that have a societal impact. And we believe that you need to take an interdisciplinary approach to that. So that's why we also come from different backgrounds. We have people that are trained in communication, people that are trained in economics, but also for sure we have a computing background among our team members in engineering. Well, here you see a few people that are behind IronHacks. Besides me, we have Elizabeth in the call. We also have Matt in the call, who's the chief, I would say, technology person, or the chief developer behind IronHacks and the platform that we have been improving and are constantly improving to offer more benefits to you using it in the future. So what's IronHacks? Past and its future. IronHacks was born with the idea that innovation cannot be solved by people that are walled off behind R&D walls and work for big companies. It can be solved because we give hands, not just voices, but actually hands to people all around the world to get access to data and to tasks that these big companies cannot solve on their own, or that governments cannot solve on their own. Right now, we are looking into COVID-19. And digital platforms offer a new way of doing that. And you might have used some of those, heard of some of those. Topcoder, for example, for software development. Netflix, as you might know, has also run their crowdsourcing effort. That's what we call that. IronHacks, Challenge.gov, etc. In Kaggle, now one of the leaders in data science. So IronHacks is a platform that allows people around the world to use data to solve problems. And we would like to give you access to interesting data, big data, and also recent data. The challenges that we've been focusing on, as I mentioned, are always related to some societal issue, healthy living, affordable housing, and now it's COVID-19. And IronHacks is supporting as a platform an hacking process that's different from a traditional hack. You might have participated in a hack. Typically, you go there, lots of people working for a short period of time, 1 day, 2 days, sometimes 3 days, 36 hours is kind of the average. Then you do have mentorships and you have physical presence, yes. But what we offer is an iterative process that's virtual, that's supported with a platform that offers you features and technologies, and everybody gets the same access and has the same conditions to work from. It's virtual. We also support you with tutorials throughout, but that's virtual, and you can work at your own time and your own space, so to speak. You don't have to be at a certain point of time present unless you want to. The only thing you have to do is to meet submission deadlines, but you can certainly also submit earlier if there's something coming up. IronHacks, like Kaggle, is an individual competition, and IronHacks offers you the opportunity to innovate with unique data that are real world. They're different from data that you might use when you actually, participate in a class or when you take a course on Udemy, Coursera. They're unique, and not everybody has at that point access to, or it takes quite some time to actually prepare this data and have them in one location. It's a competition that's individual. So you have to kind of try to outperform others, but at the same time, we actually also support community building features so that you can work as a big group that needs to have the same common understanding of core problems. I'll talk a little bit about this later. Besides prizes, it was financial reward. You can also gain reputation because you will be in the end also exposed to partners, will be exposed also through your solutions at the end if they have a certain level of quality globally, because we are offering you to feature those on our platform, or in now the COVID-19 Data Science Challenge, our partners, the state of Indiana in particular, the so-called Management Performance Hub is offering to showcase the solutions that are great. Okay, in the past, we focused on app development. And so we looked into people with skills or interest in HTML, CSS, JavaScript, D3, GS. So was the idea that you have data, typically open data or a mixture of open data and proprietary data, that you then mesh up into an interactive web application that has a map, that has charts, and also has input forms where you interact with the data. We had quite a success to also empower people with almost no programming skills to actually turn this data into something useful. And I encourage you to look at our website, www.ironhacks.com. You scroll down and then you see the showcases that were built by beginner programmers. In the past, and that's the case, IronHacks led those participants through an iterative process. So we started with a kickoff and a training phase, and then you have hacking phase 1, then we evaluated those hacking phase 2. We have an evaluation every time you get feedback, and in the end, you have a certain ranking, and then you get awarded. These evaluations were done either based on with machines, so we have wrote a script to evaluate certain aspects, or if it relates to some user-related issues by UX experts. Try to be very fast so that it's maximum 2 days until the scores are available in your personal dashboard. It also brings me to the kind of core features of the platform. As you've seen, there's a registration form. We show you existing, past, and upcoming hacks. We have not listed all the past hacks for you because we ran actually close to, I think, 20 in the past, smaller ones, bigger ones. And then you also have, once you're actually part of a hack, you have a dashboard where you see your results per phase. And you also have something what we call a workspace or a cloud-based editor that allows you to work with no setup on the problem. You can just get started. And we all know from our own experiences that sometimes takes a while to set up the environment, get things loaded. We'll do this for you. And there's also a forum where you can basically share your questions and interact also with us. There's a forum available for you. Here is just a screenshot of an editor that we used in the past, because there we focused on web development, where we already preloaded the respective files for you, and you could immediately then actually see your application, and that is produced with the code. Now, this editor looks different, and I'm going to talk about this in a little bit. Just a few notes on the platform. The platform is designed for scalability so that many participants can engage in this hack. We also try to constantly improve our feedback processes, user experiences, and I have to mention that it is also supporting research. IronHacks wouldn't be there if there wasn't a National Science Foundation. NSF helped us to actually build the platform and also run those challenges, because we constantly try to better understand how we could actually make your performance better. How can we improve your productivity in solving problems through features of the platforms, through incentives? So it supports what scientists call randomized field experiments. And as you're working on those hacks that are real-world challenges, we also have a research stream that goes in parallel to further improve the platform. So here are some figures of past participants. At some point, we ran with 200 at the same time, hacking virtually. I have to tell you, these are participants that completed the hack, not those that signed up and started. So in total, we had about close to actually a little bit more than 1,000 participants. Okay, so IronHacks is about, on the one hand, also science. We try to improve the platform by using science to gain a better understanding of what are the factors that make people more innovative, more productive. At the same time, it's also real-world impact, and there are benefits for you. Career opportunities, one thing I want to point out. You have the opportunity to get exposed to partners that look for fellows, for maybe new employees. You get a certificate. You also can win prizes. And the prize money we awarded in the past ranged from $100 to, at some point, more than $500 for the winner. I'll talk a little bit more about the actual prizes we'll put up now for the Data Science Challenge. In some cases, we also get class credits, and there's also global recognition. We had established a mobility program where people could come to us to work as a fellow, and from other countries, China and Colombia. And now it's a little bit difficult with COVID-19, but you could still get global recognition, because we're going to feature your solutions if they have a certain level of quality in our. Here are some insights on our partners in the past, and some of those actually follow us along now. Here an example of prior statements, a scenario where students want to move to New York to find a safe and affordable district to live near the NYU Stern School of Business. The task was there at that point of time to develop a mashup that integrates and analyzes, interactively displays open data in order to support new students to evaluate and rank those districts in New York. And there are 59 of those. And the mashup should then allow the students to rank and compare the various districts. I'm not going to show now a demo app, because I want to actually focus on the COVID-19 data science challenge, but I mentioned we have showcase apps on our platform. Here's just a screenshot of one of those, and it shows that there's a map that is then interactively explorable. At the same time, you can also click out the map, use a right click, and then you get charts related to that. So meshing up different data and then using different visualization techniques to actually allow users to interactively explore the data. Why am I sharing this? Because that was the past, and I wanted to talk about the future. Because we've moved on, and we are now focusing on data science. And that's why our editor is not an editor for web development. It's an editor for data science. And I'm sure that some of you have been exposed to Jupyter Notebooks, and Jupyter Notebooks have become kind of the de facto standard among data scientists. We are offering now the next generation of notebooks, which is the Jupyter Lab. And that Jupyter Lab offers additional features, because you can also use a terminal, you can use a console. and allows you to actually have fully supported workflow of data science in scientific computing, machine learning, and data science. So it's really the next generation. So if you're coming from an R background and you have been working with our studio, you find the Jupyter Lab really exciting because it has aspects that our studio offers, and it's not just a traditional notebook. In addition to that, we also offer you access to BigQuery, which is Google's novel data warehousing solution, where we store pre-processed data for you. And so now the skills and technologies that are kind of used in or useful in IronHacks and the COVID data science challenges are in Python. In addition to that, it's good if you have some SQL knowledge, but it's also okay if you don't, because we have prepared, or we are preparing a set of kind of key queries that you might want to use. But even without that, you could actually use other libraries from R, for example, to query understand the data. So I think at this point of time, it's now a good point, and then also show you that. But before I do this, so kind of telling you that I think we're kind of similar to Kaggle for sure. Kaggle, in case you have used it, is definitely bigger. Thousands of notebooks have run several challenges, and it's now owned by Google. But it is offering similar features. But there are also differences, and these differences relate to the process, but also in the way we are integrating those different technologies. So what I would like to do now, actually go to the platform and hope that's working out. So here's the platform. I'm going to sign in and to show you also a little bit where we are. In case you haven't done that yet, that's kind of the page where you can select your hack. Here are the upcoming hacks. So here's the COVID-19 Data Science Challenge. Tells you about the opening date. I'll talk a little bit about the process later. And here's a description of it and more details on dates, etc. And I should follow this along. You will be publishing here in a little bit also the calendar. And there's also timer that you see up front here. I'm going to do a demo, and just what I'm going to do now right now is I'm entering the so-called workspace. I mentioned we now have a data science workspace, and what happens is if I click on this, I get into the lab. This is the Jupyter Lab, and you can already see that I can create notebooks, I can create a console, I can also create a terminal, text files, markdowns, etc. Let me just also, and I hope this is kind of working out for you, because it might not always turn out so nicely when I do screen share, show you a notebook, and I'm going to try just to run it right now. That uses actually some COVID-19 data sets. So I've just imported here some libraries. You see we've already installed them. And I'm defining some of the parameters. I need to quickly turn off my Bluetooth here because it's always coming up. And then let me just run this here. And then we should see kind of the first interactive chart. So this shows here for you now, this is using data about incidents and COVID-19 incident cases. And as you can see here, for the different countries right now, and it's an interactive visualization that's created with the Python library. There's also a time series that shows the cumulative cases until May. Also, you can, that's interactive. And we have a state level. So the first was country level, then we go to the state level. And this is just a descriptive analysis using some COVID data, but done in a nicely interactive way. So more of this, you can play around with yourself pretty soon. As we announced, opening for registration before we actually start the competition, because you have some time to actually warm up, use that lab, and or we also going to give you some training data sets that are real that are related to data that we mine for you, but you would not use those in the competition. So this was now a Python notebook. I also have here a notebook that is in R, and as you can see here, that uses another kernel, and this is also possible. I can also just, for example, just do a console in R. You can just open that, and so if I want to see what are actually my installed packages, it should give me the installed packages, huh? 1 second. It's not, I'm going to do screen sharing. I made a typo, sorry about that. So then you see all the list of the installed packages. And what can I also do? I can also, if I want to, open the terminal. And then, if you're a person who likes to work with a terminal, that works just in the same way. You can also create basically your script file there and run it actually to the console. So that's all possible. Let me go back to my presentation. That works. Okay. Kicked out here. Do this again. So, having explained a little bit what we'll be offering you, not everything, but at least that you know what kind of workspace we will be using, and also what we will be offering you in terms of data sets. At a general level, I want to go now a little bit into details and related to the data science challenges. These data science challenges will focus on prediction. So it's not like in the past where it's about web development and interactive design, where it was very important that you got certain analytics right, but it was more about the visualization aspect. Now it's about prediction, and that's where data science and statistical skills come in. So why is that important? If you look at COVID-19 and the history, we were always wondering, how do the cases develop? And actually, some of the models that scientists develop were not always getting it that right, because it's not that easy. There is, in some cases, a really, really nonlinear behavior. Some other topics related to COVID-19, for example, like social distancing or food traffic, if people, going to stores, which we call kind of visitor counts, this looks like it's quite linear. I've shown here, this is a model that relates to death. This is just a script that's related to how many people visit certain places, airports, bars, etc., compared to last year. And you see, there's a trend, we have this huge drop here, when we had, March, and we started to move into shutdown, and then we saw, a linear increase, and now it's kind of flattening out a little, because it looks like, we are not going back to normal as we had hoped for, or it's not that easy either. So that's why you come in. It's very important to help us make those predictions. And we are running a series of challenges. Some are more difficult because the data is bigger. It's, let's say, you have more variables to deal with. You have more different data types. And then others that are simpler and easier, but we did already a lot of pre-processing for you, and that's going to be the first one. So we have summer and fall already set up, and for summer, we argue it's a beginner level challenge, because we already took over a lot of the pre-processing for you for the data, and as you might know, data science in the real world often implies that you have to first do a lot of data cleaning and pre-processing. We already did that for you. What will happen now? So we open registration, and very shortly afterwards, you will have access to a forum, and I would like you to use that forum and post questions so that we learn more about it. Then we release tutorials that you can use at your own time. We will also offer what we say Q&A sessions that we run in the evening, where you can jump in and ask a question during those. We'll also have live tutorials on certain topics. And we use that time also to learn more about you, what your needs are, and it gives you also an opportunity to warm up. We will already give you a data set for that. It is not that you have to, work on completely unrelated data that relate to COVID-19. They're just not exactly those that we will be using in the competition. Then we start the competition, and that's requires us to have a certain amount of people in there, minimum 60. So keep that in mind. The more people we get, the better. And we hope that people are committed and help us solve the COVID-19 challenge. And then we start with the submissions. 1, we move to score release, and then the submission 2. So we walk through the typical IronHacks process. In the end, we're going to award the winners. The data we'll be using coming from those partners. SafeGraph is a data provider. It's a company that has been mining data using mobile phones and other devices for a long, long time. We call them, for example, social mobility pattern data, where they trace where people go. And then there are also core places data, where you get information about visitor counts at certain places or brands, McDonald's, etc. We also have from them social distancing metrics that were calculated using a certain radius from where people move from their home location. Also transaction data, credit card data, credit spending data, that we have pre-processed for you to be used in future challenges. They're really exciting data, and I hope you're excited as we are to use this data to actually do some modeling. We then also have data from our state, which is specifically the Management Performance Hub, which handles all the data for the state. And you might have actually watched the video from the chief data science in the state of Indiana, Josh. It's very excited that you want to participate. And from there, we have very granular data on COVID cases, COVID deaths, not just at the county level, but even more granular. Then also workforce development with access to unemployment claims and skill data. And then there's additional data that we've been pulling together. Don't worry, we will not use all of those in the first COVID challenge. We've selected a few and have to have you work on the first task that gives you data that are all at the same level. So you're not dealing with things like aggregating up or translating between counties, zip code, sensors, because these are all different levels of data collection, and that would take too much time to do this. And so we have put them all on the same level, so you don't have to we have pre-installed libraries so that you can actually get started right away. Here's just a list libraries for R and Python. You will see that also in our task description, which ones, or you just run a command as I did to see which ones are installed, but we actually give you access to the also official documentation of those libraries. We spent some time deciding which one are really essential. If now during the warm-up phase you feel I want to really work with this library, please let us know, because we could then install it prior to the competition. But I'm thinking that our list is pretty extensive, so that you're going to be happy. Here's an example of a task, high level. I don't want to go into the actual task because it would not be fair for those that are not here. So, example, develop and execute a Python R code in a Jupyter notebook that predicts COVID-19 impact using the datasets available via BigQuery. For example, spending data, mobility data. So the most important part of that task is prediction using those actual data. And you might just work with a linear regression model or a logistic regression model. Let's something like that. You don't have to use all the variables that we offer you. And then in addition to that, we also kind of ask you to visualize and communicate the results. It plays a minor role, and it's only required in the final phase. Why? Because in the end, you want to make sure that your results can be communicated to partners that are not necessarily maybe statisticians or data scientists or programmers, so that you communicate and interpret the results so that you understand, that they can understand historic developments, but also your predictions and yes, uncertainty associated with it. Because accuracy in prediction is not always that simple. What will you submit? You will submit a CSV file in the Python notebook and some additional information like references you used, some description from your end, including maybe a short pseudocode, and also then your visualization in the last phase as a notebook and also in an HTML page. It's very simple. You can just export that through the lab. There's no need for you to do anything. It's just export function, and that's it. So no additional work for you. How do we score you? The dominant or the most important scoring metric is the accuracy of your prediction. We're going to use mean square error for this. So basically using your predictions and compare that to the actual observed data, and then from there we calculate mean square. Although, in addition to that, we also add something related to the visualization, but only in that phase where it's required, so that you also can demonstrate that you're also able to communicate the results. And then in some hacks, not in this one, we're also going to look into the quality of your modeling in your code. How well is it documented? Is your code structured? But we don't expect that from beginners. So I guess the final note now also, what kind of training or specifically developed by us will we be offering? We'll give you a brief intro into the Jupyter Lab. We'll give you also a kind of a cheat sheet, with shortcuts, then showing you how can you actually query the database we're giving you using the notebooks, walk through also how to use the key that we're providing you, and then some SQL essentials. If there's additional issues that come up, for example, how do I deal with dates and times, we will add that. Right now, I think it's not needed for the first one because we already kind of took care of that in the pre-processing, but in a future hack that might be useful. And there might be also other additional tutorials we will be adding ourselves by those that we create. And sure, there's also additional created online links that we put in a section that is available, which we call tutorials. Well, who do we award? For sure, we're definitely going to recognize the best solution, top 3 solutions. In addition to that, we have additional award categories, we call them improvement spirits. So based on your effort throughout the different rounds, we will use a rank order mechanism to also award others that didn't make it to the top. There's something in there for everybody. And then also we're going to have a category related to the overall performance. So if everybody as a whole, the group as a whole is improving, everybody can get some money. So for example, if everybody is improving by a certain percentage in the mean square error, then everybody is actually getting an additional financial reward. The exact amount will be actually shared in the task statement. We have planned to give a price budget of about $3,000 US. That money comes from National Science Foundation and also Cody from our side. There are a range of benefits for sure for policymakers as well, and not just for you gaining the reward. We hope that your models will help them to better understand how they should decide upon budget and health policies, but also other orders related to social distancing, face mask wearing, or other information they should share with citizens. And also there are hopefully benefits for citizens themselves because they can decide how they should act socially, how they should act economically. And for sure, we also hope that there is an advancement in COVID research, gaining a better understanding of the impact of COVID-19 from a social and economic point of view. Here again, a list of our partners, and we're excited to have them on board. And without actually going into detail and explaining who they are, I think the logos speak for themselves. They're local partners, but they're also state and actually partners that are at the United States level. We focus right now on the United States at this point. And so I hope that this is an exciting challenge for you. So what should you do next? I guess the next step is, if you haven't done it yet, you should register on the platform. You should also go and then register for the COVID-19 challenge as we open it, and then start and get familiar with the workspace, use the Jupyter Lab, and ask also questions. And what we like to know from you specifically now, and maybe you have a chance answer that question now. It's like, have you ever used a Jupyter notebook? Have you ever written an SQL command? So that we can also tailor a little bit the material that we will be sharing. And any other questions, please ask them now.
All right, thank you, Professor Brunswicker, for that fantastic presentation. I know we've
I had
been
a
having
glitch in my demo. Sorry about that, but this is always, the moment sometimes, when you
no
have so
worries.
many screens open at the same time. Yeah, go
And I
ahead.
think we had some good questions in the chat. I'm making sure to go back through and answer any of those that have been asked. So we'll take a few minutes here. If you still have questions, we will follow up with those here, and we can also follow up with them afterwards. We can follow up with the attendees who are here if there's something that requires a little bit more detail or you'd like to talk to us in more depth about one of your questions. We'd be happy to answer those. So we'll wait here for just a moment as we wrap things up. If you don't have any questions at this time, feel free to exit the event. However, we will stay here as we finish answering any questions that are posed in the chat.
Hey, there are no questions.
And I see
There
an
are no further
answer.
questions. I would say just let's do it. And I hope that you are still pondering about participation. If you have a question, send us also an email or then just register and share your questions in the forum with us.
All right, thank you, Professor Brunswicker. We'll go ahead and end this session now. It looks like the final question was answered by Matt in our chat, so thank you, Matt, for that. If anybody else does have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we look forward to having you in the challenge.